Hey, this is Dave with AllProWebTools. I want to help you to get better performance from your employees. Now, I've hired hundreds and hundreds of employees over the past 20 years, and initially I would think that some employees just weren't cut out for the job or just weren't interested in being part of the team, but I found out that it's more about giving clear and concise instructions than it is about their actual attitude. Because I think at the end of the day, they all really do want to be successful and they want to help. And we just have to provide clear instructions to them. And the number one place where most small businesses fail in this is they provide verbal instructions. I learned a few years back not to use verbal instructions. Everything should be written down. You think about it. Do you have verbal agreements with your clients, or do you use written agreements with your clients? Do you have policies that are written up? Do you have contracts that you sign with your clients? Typically, you probably do. And the reason for that is because things can be misunderstood or forgotten, and being able to have that reference to go back to so you both can understand what you agreed to just makes sense. So why wouldn't we use that type of a format with the team that we work with on a daily basis? They like having consistency. That's one thing I really learned is staff thrive on consistency and understanding what the expectations are for them. So the number one reason to write everything down is so that there's no misunderstandings. Something very common that an employee might say is, "Oh, I didn't hear you say that," or "Oh, I didn't know you wanted me to do it that way." And you're thinking, well, I told you that yesterday. Why did, but that's just the nature of verbal communication. It's not really that efficient. So if you write it down, that gives everybody a reference so they can look exactly what the instructions were. The second reason why this is important is they don't feel like you're changing the rules on them. And if you are going to change something, it should be added to that agreement so everybody can see that it changed, and maybe even put the date on there so everybody understands when that policy changed. The next thing is that this provides a checklist for them. So if there is a certain task that you need someone in the company to do, they can check through that list, that numbered list of items, to make sure that they executed everything on that list properly. Another thing this helps with is, let's say you have someone who normally performs this task, but they're out sick this week, and you have to grab someone else from your team to take over. Well, that person's not really used to doing that job. They may know some of the basic idea of how to do it, but they don't know the actual steps that need to be taken. If you have a written document, everyone can reference that document, and you as a business owner are going to get consistent results no matter who's doing the job. And then finally, this provides a reference for evaluating their performance. So after the job is completed, both you and the employee can look at that written document and verify that everything was done properly. So if you have somebody who needs a little bit more coaching or direction, you can both identify that that line on the standard operating procedure wasn't exactly followed. And maybe it might point out that there was some discrepancy in the way it was written, and maybe you could write it a little better so it'll be clearer next time. So what we're really talking about here is called standard operating procedures. So I want to show you an example of a standard operating procedure. So I recommend having your standard operating procedures in a digital format. The reason for this is because it should be a living document. It's something that's going to change over and over. And having it written on an actual piece of paper, it's just going to turn into a lot of chicken scratch after a while. So we're going to go into the standard operating procedures. And if you're keeping this digital, there's a track record of who made the change and when they made it. So I think that it's best when the person performing the task is able to make additions and changes, and that management can see who made those changes, so if they need to make some corrections, they can do that. But having this be a collaborative document that everybody can contribute to is going to help you to write that documentation, because as a business owner, you probably don't have time to sit down and think about all the different things that are going on in the company and write all these out. If you do have the time, that's great, but you probably don't. So having your team who actually does these tasks write those out for you is going to be incredibly beneficial. So here we have an example of a morning procedure. So it's a numbered list and it explains all the items that need to be done during the day. And this can be added to by anyone, and you can format it so that there's color coding and things like that. But the point is, if you come down here, there is a comparison button where you can look at all the previous dates when this document has been changed. And over here on the right, you can see what was added and who added it. So that's why I recommend using a digital solution. And you could have a collection of Word docs, or you could use Google Docs. It doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you have that tracking so that you and your staff have access to those documents, and you will eventually have a complete book explaining how to do every single thing in your company, which is going to be real useful when you turn around and sell your business to someone else. They're going to see value that you have that entire operating manual of how to run your company without you there. So that's my tip for the day. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear how you organize your business. Go ahead and comment down below.